Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions out there. Are we alone in the universe?
It's a question that's fascinated humans for as long as we've looked up at the stars.
Exactly. And lucky for us, there's a ton of really cool research and speculation out there to dive into. For this deep dive, we're going to be focusing on a YouTube video from the channel Tree Evolution.
It's a great video that does a fantastic job of breaking down some of the mind-boggling challenges we face in the search for extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, it really does. So we're going to cover a ton of ground in this deep dive, from the sheer vastness of space to the limitations of our technology, and even some of the philosophical questions that this whole search raises.
It's a journey that pushes into the very edge of what we know and understand about the universe.
Right off the bat, the video hits us with this concept called the hierarchy problem, and it uses this really powerful analogy. Imagine a grain of sand on a beach.
Okay?
That grain of sand compared to the entire beach is kind of like our Earth compared to the observable universe.
It's a pretty stark illustration of just how immense the universe really is and how insignificant our little planet is in the grand scheme of things.
I know, it's pretty humbling, right? The video even goes a step further and compares the smallest thing we can measure, which is something called the Planck length, to the size of the observable universe.
And the difference between those two scales is almost impossible to even fathom.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just numbers that are so big and so small, they kind of lose all meaning to our brains. But that's the scale we're dealing with when we talk about the search for extraterrestrial life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With so much space out there, it's incredibly difficult to even imagine where to begin looking for evidence of other life. It's like searching for a needle in a cosmic haystack.
A giant haystack. But okay, let's say we do find evidence of life maybe on a planet 1,000 light years away. How do we even begin to think about getting there?
Well, that's where the video dives into the limitations of our current technology. It starts by talking about the Parker Solar Probe, which is the fastest spacecraft we've ever built. It can reach speeds of over 500,000 kilometers per hour, which is incredibly fast by our standards. But when you compare that to the speed of light, it's practically crawling.
So even our most advanced spacecraft are nowhere near fast enough to travel the kinds of distances we're talking about.
Not even close. In fact, it would still take the Parker Solar Probe thousands of years to reach even the closest star system to our own Alpha Centauri.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, it really highlights just how vast interstellar distances are and how far we have to go in terms of technology before we can even think about traveling to other star systems.
Absolutely. And here's where Einstein's theory of relativity comes in. It basically tells us that reaching the speed of light, which is about 300,000 kilometers per second, is impossible for anything with mass.
So are we just stuck here? Like, is interstellar travel just a pipe dream?
Well, it's certainly a challenge, but there are some theoretical concepts out there like wormholes and warp drives that could potentially allow us to bypass the speed of light limit. But those are still very much in the realm of science fiction.
Right, right. So for now, we're pretty much limited by the speed of light, which means that even if we could travel close to it, the journeys would take an incredibly long time.
Exactly. And even if we could find a way to travel close to the speed of light, we run into another major challenge: time dilation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Time dilation. That's one of the weirdest things about Einstein's theory of relativity.
It really is. Basically, time dilation means that time slows down for objects that are moving at speeds close to the speed of light relative to someone who is stationary.
So, like, if I were on a spaceship traveling at 90% the speed of light, time would pass slower for me than for someone back on Earth.
Exactly. The video gives this great example. Imagine someone traveling at 95% the speed of light. For every 1 second that passes for them, 3 seconds would pass here on Earth.
Whoa, so a 10-year journey for the traveler might only feel like a few years to them.
Right. And that would make communication with Earth really difficult, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, imagine trying to have a conversation with someone where every message takes years to get back and forth.
It would be a logistical nightmare. But the challenges go even deeper than communication issues.
In what way?
Well, the video talks about this hypothetical mission to a star system that's 75,000 light years away.
Yeah.
That means that even if we could travel at the speed of light, it would take 75,000 years to get there and another 75,000 years for any messages to get back to Earth.
75,000 years.
Yeah, think about that. How do you even begin to plan for a mission that spans generations? How do you maintain political and economic stability over that kind of timescale?
It boggles the mind. It makes you wonder, even if we could solve the physics of interstellar travel, Are we even remotely ready for the human side of it?
It's a question that really gets to the heart of what it means to be human and what our place is in the universe.
Mhm.
It's a question we really need to grapple with if we're serious about exploring the universe and searching for other life forms. But it also kind of ties back into that big question we touched on earlier, the Fermi paradox.
Right, the whole "where is everybody" conundrum. If intelligent life is supposedly so common in the universe, why haven't we found any evidence of it yet?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest mysteries in science. And the video explores this really interesting possibility called the Great Filter.
The Great Filter, what's that?
Well, it's this idea that maybe there's some kind of barrier that prevents most civilizations from reaching a point where they can travel between stars or communicate across vast distances.
Hmm. So it's not that alien civilizations don't exist, but something's stopping them from reaching a certain level of advancement.
That's the basic idea. And it's pretty unsettling when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. Like, what could that barrier even be?
That's the million-dollar question. It could be some kind of technological hurdle that we haven't even conceived of yet.
Wow.
Or maybe there's some inherent self-destructive tendency that intelligent species develop. Who knows?
It's a sobering thought. Like, what if we're destined to destroy ourselves before we even get the chance to reach out to other civilizations?
It's definitely a possibility we have to consider. But the video also challenges us to think about alien life in a whole new way. It brings up this idea of the problem of cuteness, which is a really interesting way of putting it.
The problem of cuteness. What does cuteness have to do with aliens?
Well, we tend to picture aliens as these beings that are somewhat relatable to us. Maybe they build spaceships. Maybe they have some kind of advanced technology. Maybe they even look a bit like us.
Mm-hmm.
But what if our idea of intelligence is completely off base?
Interesting.
What if alien life is evolved in ways that we can't even begin to comprehend?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Like, we're kind of stuck in our own way of thinking about intelligence.
Exactly. The video actually uses the example of ants to illustrate this point.
Mm-hmm.
Ants have these really complex societies that communicate with each other. They even solve problems in pretty sophisticated ways. But do we consider them intelligent in the same way that we consider ourselves intelligent?
Not really. I mean, they're fascinating creatures, but I don't think anyone would argue that ants are on the same intellectual level as humans.
Right. But they're intelligent in their own way, and they've been incredibly successful as a species. So imagine an alien civilization that's as far beyond us as we are beyond ants.
Wow, that's kind of mind-blowing.
Right. Would they even notice us? Would they see us as anything more than just another species on a planet full of life?
Probably not. It really makes all of our efforts to find them seem a bit self-centered, doesn't it?
It does. Like we're saying, hey, look at us, we're intelligent too. But to a super intelligent alien civilization, we might be as insignificant as ants are to us.
It's a humbling thought, and it raises some pretty important ethical questions, too. Like,
Yeah.
if we do ever encounter an alien civilization that's far more advanced than we are, how should we approach them? What are our responsibilities to them, and what are their responsibilities to us?
Exactly. These are questions that we need to start thinking about now, because if we're not prepared for the possibility of encountering a truly alien intelligence, the consequences could be disastrous. This whole problem of cuteness thing is really making me question everything I thought I knew about this search for extraterrestrial life.
You too. I mean, it's like we've spent this whole deep dive talking about the challenges of finding extraterrestrial life, but what if the real challenge isn't finding them, but recognizing them? It's a really profound idea, isn't it? Like, maybe we're so focused on finding something that looks and acts like us that we're missing all these other possibilities.
Exactly. It's like that saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
We might be approaching the search for extraterrestrial life with a very limited set of tools and a very narrow definition of what intelligence even means.
So how do we break out of that? How do we broaden our perspective and become more open to the truly alien?
Well, I think a big part of it is acknowledging our own limitations.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to admit that we don't have all the answers and that our way of seeing the universe is just one perspective among many.
That's a good point. It's about being humble, right? Like
Right.
recognizing that we're not necessarily the most intelligent beings in the universe, and that there might be forms of intelligence out there that are so different from our own that we can't even begin to fathom them.
Precisely. And, the video talks about this idea of hocus pocus solutions and how important it is to stick to evidence-based thinking in the search for extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, I remember that. It's basically saying that we shouldn't get too caught up in wild theories and speculation, and that we should focus on what we can actually observe and measure.
Right. But I think there's another side to that coin, too. While it's important to be skeptical and to demand evidence, we also have to be open to the possibility that the evidence might not look like what we expect.
That makes sense. Like, we can't just dismiss something as impossible just because it doesn't fit into our current understanding of the universe.
Exactly. We have to balance skepticism with a healthy dose of open-mindedness. It's a tricky balance to strike for sure, but I think it's essential if we're ever going to truly understand our place in the cosmos.
So where do we go from here? What can we do to prepare ourselves for the possibility of encountering an alien intelligence that might be radically different from anything we can imagine?
Well, I think it starts with cultivating a sense of wonder and curiosity, you know? Like, we need to approach the universe with a sense of awe and humility and be open to the possibility that there are things out there that are far beyond our current comprehension.
I love that. It's about embracing the unknown and accepting that the universe is full of surprises.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday we'll get that surprise that we've been waiting for,
Yeah,
that undeniable evidence that we're not alone in the universe.
that would be incredible, wouldn't it? Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the search for extraterrestrial life, be sure to check out the Tree Evolution YouTube channel for even more thought-provoking content. And until next time, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and keep that sense of wonder alive.